The opinions in this podcast are all our own.
But the businesses are real chamber members.
It's a chamber chat.
Coming to you from Wahoo, Nebraska. Chamber Chat with Kate
And Kat.
Welcome to Chamber Chat with Kate
and Kat. I'm Catherine Nygren, owner of Found and Flora Flower Shop.
And I'm Kate to Coast, owner of Kate to Coast Photography. This podcast is everything Wahoo Chamber of Commerce.
And now a message from one of our chamber champions.
Hey, Kat, you know what keeps me going on a podcast recording day?
Let me guess. Could it be a delicious, fast, and friendly cup of coffee?
You got it. And no one does it better than Scooter's Coffee right here in Wahoo.
Oh, absolutely. And they're family owned and operated, and they serve more than just coffee. They serve our community with a smile.
And let's talk about speed. Whether you need a quick pick-me-up or you're on your way to an event, they've got the fastest coffee in town.
Plus, the people at Scooters are just the best. They make every stop feel warm and welcoming.
100%. So, if you haven't yet, scoot on around today for an amazing drink, amazing people, and service that's amazingly fast.
Scooters Coffee, family owned, locally loved. Well, Kate, we have a special guest in the studio today.
We do. It's not just us looking at each other.
I know. It's
we have
so
someone
fun.
else to look at.
Yes, and she's fresh off of being on 10/11 this week. And it's so fun. As seen on Pure Nebraska, we have Erin Hauser from the Saunders County Historical Society. She is the curator of our local museum, if you don't know.
Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. Yes, I'm on my little media tour. So.
You are. You are.
Well, I mean, you have a book out, so why wouldn't you have a media tour?
I know. And I did not know that you had a book out. And I think we should talk about that. Like, what is the book? What can people expect if they pick it up?
Okay, so the book is called The Nebraska Ordnance Plant, and a lot of people who are from the area remember that there was a ordnance plant here during World War II and Korea. So it lasted about 20 years, and the book, it talks about the history of the plant and has lots and lots of pictures.
Nice.
What gave you the idea to write a book?
We've been thinking about doing a book about something for a while, and we had looked at different options, but we noticed that we had a significant number of photographs related to the ordnance plant.
Okay.
And that it seems to be a topic of interest among a lot of different people who come into the museum. So we decided we'll pitch the ordnance plant and see if that works. And the company that we used liked that, and so away we went.
Nice.
What kind of timeline? Like, how long did it take you, like, start to finish on this project, would you say?
It took about, let's see, from when we sort of applied for, you have to apply your pitch, if you will.
Okay.
Topic, you know, what you might want to do. We
Sure.
actually did a couple of them, and this is the one that they liked. It took maybe 6 months to a year for us to kind of get everything going. You know, there's obviously some paperwork and some logistics to work out. And then, so we really started, I would say, probably around April or May, over a year ago.
Okay.
And we had to have it done by the 1st of December of that year, so of 2023.
Okay.
And then it came out in July of 2024.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Oh, okay.
So this
So
has been a
it's-
work in progress for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a little bit of time. Fortunately, we had
Sure.
quite a bit of the stuff, and a lot of it is choosing what we're going to do, you know, our pictures. The company that we used has a formula, and so we had to stick with the formula.
Okay.
And so we were kind of limited on, we had the number of pictures we could use. There's a word minimum and maximum that we could do.
Right.
Okay.
And so once we did that, then we edited it a couple of times. And then they also send back edits saying this needs to be clarified, or you need to use a different picture here.
Oh.
And so once we submitted it, then it was probably about March when we were kind of we submitted our final final
Okay.
draft.
Sure.
And then there was then it was the end of July is when it finally came out.
Nice.
Wow,
That is a process. And it probably, when your company is looking at it, I'm thinking like they're looking at it with total different eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So then they can see that where they're like, oh, clarify this, where you are like,
we're all like, yeah, mead.
well, yeah.
Plan. Like, what else do you need to know? And they're like, wait, tell me more.
Yeah.
Well, there was a few clarifications in terms of, so we had some photos that were clearly identified and we just basically used what was on the photo.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they were looking at it from a completely different perspective is like, okay, does everybody know what this word means?
Oh.
Okay, so we had to reword it. so
Oh,
it
yeah.
would make sense to a wider audience in
Got
some
it.
cases. So,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's like, yeah, there is no other word for that
Ordinance.
particular thing. Yeah.
Right.
So you could say ordinance, you could say bomb. That's about it. I mean, how many times can you say the same?
Same.
Kapow.
Oh, yeah.
It goes boom.
Boom.
It goes back, yes.
Sure. Well,
That's so fun.
Yeah.
So remind us, if people want to pick up the book, you've got them in stock there at the gift shop in the museum.
Correct. Yes. And the ones that we have at the museum are actually signed by
Oh.
myself and Jennifer Garza, who's the co-author.
Okay.
But you can order it online through the company, which is Arcadia Publishing. But I think you can also pick it up in like Lincoln at like Barnes & Noble, probably Omaha Barnes & Noble, and
Okay.
a couple of different stores. We spotted at a couple of different stores that carry these brands
Did you
of
say,
books.
was it Target?
I think Target.
I thought I saw on Facebook.
I think Jennifer
Oh.
found it at Target, and I think
Yeah.
I spotted the same companies has books at like Walmart too. So
Okay.
so you can pick it
So-
up at several different places.
Oh, that's
Pretty
cool.
wide. So Wahoo is represented
Yeah.
across a lot of bookstores.
Yeah. Shelves.
Which is so cool. Yay.
That's awesome.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Sure. So we're in a new year and a new membership year. So there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes in a museum as far as membership goes and events and all that planning.
Yeah, so right now we're doing our membership drive. So if you are a member, we would appreciate you renewing your membership. Or if you haven't been a member, you are more than welcome to join us.
Come on down.
Exactly. We have a couple of different opportunities this year. We have kind of the standard individual and family, but we've changed it up a little bit with what we're calling sponsorships. And
Oh.
we have different levels of sponsorships. So if somebody wants to give a little bit more or able to give a little bit more, you can become a sponsor. And so
Okay.
we have 4 different levels of that as well. And yeah, just more opportunities for people to become a part of the museum.
Nice.
Oh, very nice. And is that all on the website, the Saunders County Historical Society website?
Yes, it's on the website. We will maybe make it front and center. I know it's on the website. I just can't think off the top of my head where it is on the
Right,
website
right.
right at
Sure.
the moment.
Yeah, it's fine.
But it is on the website, and yeah, or they can stop by the museum and pick up a flyer as well.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah,
And maybe just sign right up right there.
exactly.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And
Just
you
be
know
like,
just
what?
bring your checkbook and come on down.
Yeah.
and
Hey,
join.
we will even take credit cards and debit cards.
Oh, well, there you
We'll
go.
have more options than just a check.
No excuse. Well, and while you're there, come visit the museum and see some of the new exhibits and stuff. I mean, I think it's so cool that we have a museum in our town that's free to walk in
Yes.
and view. Like, there's no admission charge. You can just come in and be a tourist in your own town.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Exactly. And if you are a member, we're having a members only event on March 25th
Okay.
from 5 to 7. So we're going to have an ice cream social.
Ooh,
And we're also
nice.
going to do scavenger hunts
Oh.
to give you an idea to poke around in some places that you might not know where everything is.
Oh,
So-
nice.
So
Nice.
yeah,
And
but that
maybe
is
not-
members only, so you have to
Be a member. So get your membership in by March 25th,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
that
So then you can get the ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ice cream and poking around places
Right.
that you might not be able to
Right.
do on a
Exactly.
normal like little tour.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Exactly.
You said it's March 25th.
March 25th, 5 to 7 in the evening.
What day of the
Nice.
week is that?
That's a Tuesday.
A Tuesday. Tuesday, March 25th.
So, I know
And
lots of
it's-
stuff going on in March. So
Yeah,
That's
there is.
okay.
Yeah.
I feel like it's that time of the year where people kind of wake up, the weather's getting nicer, people want to go out. So
Right.
March does kind of fill up, but it's all good stuff. It's all getting out of the house and doing fun things. So.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're tired of being cooped up.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
They're getting that spring, springing into spring type of thing. And, they don't want to do spring cleaning, but
No, that's
No,
that's
no.
fun. I'd rather go
Yeah.
to an ice cream social than do spring
Right,
cleaning
right.
at my house.
So Erin, I just had what is something in your idea of something that's maybe the most unusual thing that the museum has, or something that's you wouldn't expect maybe at a local museum? And hopefully I'm not putting you too much on the spot.
Think about all your collection.
Yeah, all of the things.
The hard thing is going to be narrowing that down.
Sure.
Because there's such a variety of things.
Right.
And, you mentioned before we got on the air, we were talking about the Oscars.
Oh, yeah.
We've got the
Yeah.
Oscars. But we also have something that survived the Titanic.
Oh.
So there's things that you just don't realize that we have. I mean, we have some Bibles from the 1700s,
Oh, wow.
Up to things that are, we're not quite to the 2000s just yet.
Okay. Sure.
Just yet. We probably have one or two things, but, pretty much the entire 20th century we have, something from every decade and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I don't know if I could narrow it down.
But the things that you just said, though, are pretty cool.
Mhm.
I don't think every museum has an Oscar.
Yeah, how many
Especially in
Oscar
a small
statuettes
town.
are?
I think there's only one more in the state of Nebraska, actually.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah, and it's at Boys Town.
Okay.
Okay.
Because they were
yes, they
gifted
had
Spencer Tracy's
They
Oscar.
had the Oscar for the movie.
Oh,
Okay.
gotcha. But
That
we have
makes-
two.
We have two.
Yeah.
We also
So-
have some Golden Globes and some other
Oh.
things as
How did I not
well.
know
So,
that?
Yeah, they don't look like the Golden Globes that you see on TV today.
Okay.
But there's also, especially in the Zanuck area, there's lots of awards that he was given. And
Sure.
But yeah.
I know there's that whole wing there dedicated to Zanuck. And
Yeah.
I've glanced at it, and I mean, it's like a lot to take in. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure some of those are really amazing awards. Hollywood stuff. It's just hard to know what is what.
Right.
Which is what.
And I know that, when you know that he's one of our famous men, like Wahoo famous men.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if you're younger, that's not pushed as much anymore. Like when I was growing up here, there was a big sign that said,
Welcome to town.
yes.
Yeah.
So you just knew there were 5 famous
There
men
were 5.
that came from here.
Right.
So they might not know that there is an Oscar winner, Golden Globe, Golden Globes in the museum, which I think is super cool. And if you want to know those things, get down there. Get down.
Go see Erin. She's like a walking encyclopedia. of
Yeah,
everything.
she is.
we can point out stuff. It's interesting with everybody who comes in. They always find something different.
Oh, sure.
That they spot. So you really, I don't want to say it's hard to tailor a tour, but one person might not have any interest in Daryl Zanuck,
Right.
but they might have an interest in like the colleges,
Oh, yeah.
or they might have an interest in music. So we have Howard Hansen,
Sure.
or else they're coming in to do research, on like family history or histories of their businesses or the buildings and that sort of thing. So yeah, so it's all sorts of different varieties of things.
Well, and again, you talking about that, if people know that, like that you can go in and research your building, like if you inherited a business or anything like that. I don't know if everyone knows that you can just, I think now we're like, well, I got to look on Google to find everything out.
Right. I'm going to go to a search engine. Meanwhile, we have a treasure trove.
Literally, yeah. And it's going to be a lot easier and you're going to have a lot more information.
Right. And it doesn't always, what you find today might give you a good clue, but that might not tell you, who owned that property 50 years ago, or maybe not own the property, but who maybe had a business there. Because there's a difference between who owns the building and who had a business.
Right.
And if you talk to some of the older residents, they'll remember something that was there 50 years ago, but they can't remember what was there 2 years ago.
Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that too. It's like,
Oh, yeah. That was it.
Right. Yeah.
I think one of the most interesting things that you've ever said was talking about advertising and like those businesses. Like the only way that we know a business exists is having like a piece of advertising, like collecting those like pens or rulers or whatever pieces that businesses gave away because like you said, the buildings, you know what I mean? Like you rent where you're at.
Right.
And so to have a proof that this existed in town, it's that advertising piece. And I thought that was a really interesting thing that you had said years ago.
Yeah, so that's one thing I will always take is in advertising, as long as I don't have 20 of them already.
Right.
But yeah, so some businesses were only around for like a year and a half or 2 years, you know, especially during certain times of history, you know, especially Depression or whatever.
Right.
Or not even just during Depression. That's just whatever reason they just can't make a go of it.
Right.
And so a pen or novelty, you know, we've got a mini meat cleaver from something, you know, and it's just.
Is it a co-op one? I think I have
it
one
might
of those
be.
in my house.
I don't know if it's a co-op. I can't remember. But, you know, we have ashtrays from dozens
I
of
bet.
places. And we
That would have been a
we
big
have
thing.
combs and we have little mirrors and, of course, all of the premiums that the stores used to give away, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and up to... So Wahoo didn't get addresses until about 1919, 1920.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So if you look in like old newspapers, it'll just say the Steen block or something like that. Well, a block is not a block of what you're thinking. It's a building.
Oh.
Interesting.
So you would have to know that the Steens built that building to know where they were located. And so it's sometimes a little bit of a mystery as to where things were.
It's a little more sleuthing than being like the corner of Fifth and Linden.
Right. Yeah.
Well, if you said Fifth and Linden, everybody knew.
Everybody would know that.
Oh,
well, but even today, you know, it's like I'll have some people come in and stop for directions someplace.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I think you go.
I know.
Drive right to it, but I couldn't. You know,
Yes.
it's like where. Like Bethlehem Lutheran Churches. Oh, well, I know where it's at, but I can't tell you what street it's on.
Right. I know.
Is it the subway corner or is it the next corner?
Right, exactly.
I know. I know. I do. I do that too. My mom was always like, you need to learn your streets. Like she was having me, when she was teaching me how to drive.
Oh, yeah.
She was like, she would give me an address and I was like, I don't know where that is. And it would be like a friend of mine's house. And she's like, you know, that's Lana's house. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just tell me that? Because you need to learn your streets. Like she hated that I would never learn them.
Oh, that's funny.
And now as an adult, I'm a little bit better at it. But I'm still like, you know.
All tree streets.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
but looking back, if you're doing research, the names of some of the streets have changed.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had somebody call me a couple weeks ago and they were looking for where their relative had lived. And I had never heard of this street. I'm like, where is this? And so I finally dug out a map. And it turns out it was only one block that was named that street.
What?
And now it has been changed to continuous with one of the numbers.
Oh,
And so it's
interesting.
So trying to figure that out, but without, you know, digging out that map.
How funny.
That sounds worse than Laurel Street.
And I'm like, did you just like, you know, do that thing where you were like jumping from, you're like, I'm on this street now. And now I'm on the, you know, like jumping back and forth. Like, that's interesting how it was just one block.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
And now a message from one of our chamber champions.
Hey, Kat, did you know that JEO Consulting Group started right here in Wahoo way back in 1937?
Wow, 1937? That's nearly 90 years of impact. So what were they doing back then?
They started as W.G. Johnson Construction Company, specializing in engineering, surveying, bridge design, and construction. And then over the years, they grew, forming partnerships and expanding their services. By 1979, they became Johnson, Erickson, O'Brien and Associates. And in 1999, they officially rebranded as JEO Consulting Group Incorporated.
Oh, wow. So they've been building communities for nearly a century. How big are they now?
Today, JEO has grown from that first office in Wahoo to over 12 offices across Nebraska, Iowa, and Kansas.
Oh, I love that. A company that values both its history and its future.
Are you looking for anything that you need or want to have in the museum? Like I'll have like friends, like I just had a friend who I think she brought stuff to you like, it was probably a couple years ago, but I was like, yeah, like ask, you know, they probably, because it was like her grandparents' business. But are you just always just like, sure, bring it in type thing and look at it, or are there certain things that you're looking
Certain
for?
categories?
Yeah.
Well, we're starting to look more for stuff that's more recent, so later 20th century. So we're talking like the 70s, 80s, 90s.
Okay.
That type of thing. Because people have in their heads, oh, they just want old stuff.
Right.
Sure.
So anything in their mind, old stuff is like
grandma,
great grandma. But if you're starting to think about it, grandmas, were around in the 50s,
right.
were teenagers in the 50s.
Right.
And so we just don't, from like the 40s, 50s, from like the second half of the 20th century, we just don't have as much.
Okay.
Everything sort of predates that because that mindset was, oh, it has to be
old.
So we don't have a lot from the 20s, or excuse me, from the 80s, 90s.
No, interesting.
And it's technically it has to be at least 20 years old before we'll take it.
Okay.
So
okay.
We're starting early 2000s now.
Oh, that's so frightening.
I know.
I know. It's when you're saying.
I remember the 90s.
I know. I'm like,
and I'm not a grandma.
Well, that's cool to know too. Like they're kind of looking at for like 20 years, just to have an idea. Which is sad that 20 years were.
But it kind of goes back to that whole people remember what if you talk to a lot of the people today, they'll remember what was downtown in the 50s and 60s when they were growing up. But the 80s and 90s, they don't really remember what was downtown a lot. They have some memories of what was downtown, but they're a little fuzzy on some of the
certain things. Yeah. It's funny because that's when I would have been growing up here. And so like when you're saying it, I'm like trying to think of the things that were that were downtown.
I just think of the whole like David Letterman thing. Like that predates me being in town, but like the whole like David Letterman home office. Like I just remember being probably a high schooler.
You were, because I was in high school.
Yeah, and watching the show and being like, from our home office in Wahoo, Nebraska, and I'm like, oh, Nebraska, oh, David Letterman. Like I don't know where Wahoo is at, but that's cool, right? It's Nebraska. But like you still hearing the stories about how like they applied and sent kids and sent a car and a wedding dress. Like I was reading some of the old articles. Like it sounded like it was a wild time.
Yeah. Once in a blue moon, we'll have people come in and ask about the home office of David Letterman if there's anything still around. And it's like, well, I think the phone booth's still there. So.
Right. You can go take your photo by the phone booth.
Right.
But I think that's about it. We have like a file on it, obviously, and we have a couple of things. But yeah. So, but stuff like that, people just don't seem to think. Don't remember. Again, it's that sort of that ideology that whatever happens within your own lifetime is not history.
Right. Because we're not getting older.
We're not getting
right.
older.
No. We're the same age as we were when that was going on.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but then if you stop and start thinking about things, it's like, oh yeah. Wait till your kids start bringing up, were you alive when?
Yeah.
And you go, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, I was.
Yes.
It wasn't surely that long ago.
I know. It's funny because we say that, like, on TikTok, there's kind of like this, I don't know if it's a trend or whatever, but people showing, like, high school in 1995. And then it's, like, a video, and you know that it's a video of, like, the camcorder, like, up on your shoulder. Oh, yeah. And then what they're wearing and the hair and everything. And I'm like, well, that's not that. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You start doing the math and you go,
yeah, that's what I would have been doing. Like,
right.
And that would have been, now everyone carries a camera. Everyone is taking videos. Everyone's taking pictures. And then it would have been like, what do you have?
It was a big deal that the camera was in your face.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. And so then you're acting all, funny. Like,
say cheese.
Yeah.
I was looking, I think I saw a couple of those and it's like, oh, yeah, I guess we did wear our hair like that, type of thing. It's like,
yes.
Okay.
A whole bottle of hairspray.
I know. And some of that stuff's coming back and it's like, oh, that was... Okay.
Some of the styles, especially from like the 80s, are coming back, and I'm like, why?
I know.
That's not a decade that you really want for fashion. That's not a decade you want to revisit.
Yeah, but it's definitely coming back.
It goes around, comes around.
I know.
So are there any categories in general that you're like, okay, I have enough wedding dresses or something to last a lifetime? Is there like some hard no's that you're like?
There's a plenty of wedding dresses. I have over 50 wedding dresses. I'm also not taking any uniforms, military uniforms, especially World War II ones. I know, unfortunately, we're losing a lot of those veterans, but we just simply do not have the room for
storing
200 uniforms from World War II. So those are definitely ones that we don't want. There was also several mass-produced things earlier in the century that we already have like a half a dozen of them. And so there were some plat books and there were some history books that were written, and I think everybody's family bought one.
Now they're cleaning
Now they're
yes.
cleaning the house. And so it's like, no, I can't. I don't need any more of those.
Right.
We don't really take any unidentified photographs. Because we have a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, these are my old family photos. And it's like, if they're not identified, I can't take them. I just don't have room for them. And the odds of somebody actually figuring out who that baby is is pretty slim.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting that someone would bring you their old family photographs. I've never would have thought of that being
as a
something
photographer, you're like, no, like, let's
Wouldn't you keep those?
Right.
Yeah.
But if you don't know who the people are, and anybody that
you're like,
might
maybe
know has
it's
passed
a history.
away.
Well, but sometimes too, if you think about certain generations, like my grandmother, she got, she was friends with a lot of people, so they would send her, their grandkids pictures.
Oh,
and
yes.
that's like, I have no idea who these people are. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Right.
I know my family.
Right.
And I can give, parcel those off to those people, but
Right.
all of her coworkers or, her
All the
cousin's
senior
kids,
pictures.
Right.
Seniors pictures. I was like, yeah, so understandably. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
that
a big
makes
thing.
sense.
Identify the people. I mean, if
Right.
they're not
If you know
identified,
them.
don't just say, Joey, age 10. Put a last name on it.
Right.
That might help you, especially if it's not your family, but you might be able
Oh,
to
yeah.
get it back to the person, that family is
Right.
who it might go to. Because people, and plus sometimes it's hard to divide it among family members.
Sure. That makes sense.
Or a lot of times it's like, I just don't have room for one more thing in my house,
Sure.
type of thing. So it's like, well, we're going to give it to you guys.
Right, because then we're not throwing it away.
Then we're not throwing it away.
Right,
Yes.
right. Yes,
Yes.
it's out of my house, but it's not going in the trash.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. That's interesting, though. Yeah,
So,
It makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And all specifically like Saunders County related stuff.
yes, Saunders County has to have a connection to Saunders County some way, shape, or form, unless it's completely unusual and we're never going to see it again.
Okay.
But that's a very, very rare occurrence that I think the entire time I've been there, I can only remember one time that we've taken something that wasn't directly related. It was because I was never going to see another thing like it. It was a suitcase organ. Basically, it was an organ that was packed into a suitcase, and you, like a traveler, could pop it up. They'd have a piano to play. I'm
How
like,
fun.
I'm never going to see another one of those.
Right.
So I that was
So you're
something
like,
that I
You're
did.
like, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
we'll take that
thank
one.
you.
But yeah, it has to have some sort of connection to Saunders County.
Okay. That makes sense. So yeah, and I think too, people have to realize, yes, it is in Wahoo, but it is the Saunders County. Like, doesn't have to just be Wahoo. And I think some people might forget that.
Right, that
Because
there's
it's-
Ashland and
right.
Meade. And
We have
Right.
17 towns in our county, and we have more than any other county in the state.
Really?
Oh, wow.
17 towns.
Wow.
Or areas, if you will.
Oh, sure.
Or
So-
things that like Juan or,
Juan or
Rescue
Sweetburg,
sure.
some of those, but I don't think I'm counting those in the 17.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
But if you start thinking about it, we have quite a bit of town.
Yes.
That's a lot to
yeah,
keep
that is-
track of.
Yeah. Yeah. When you were kind of backtracking, when we were talking about like the different areas in the museum, little what do you want to call it? Not pop-ups, but like, do you
The exhibits.
The exhibits. Oh my gosh, I could not think of that word. The exhibits. Do you do anything where you're changing things out? And if you do, how many times do you do that? Or is that too hard to?
No, we have both permanent exhibits and we have temporary exhibits.
Okay.
It just kind of depends. Right now, I'm actually working on an exhibit called Framed. And it's basically anything within our collection that has been framed.
Okay.
And that's well over 300
Oh, wow.
objects.
Wow.
And it ranges from photographs and paintings to diplomas, certificates, that sort of thing. So that's what I'm working on now to put that up. That'll probably be up at the first part of next month. Hopefully it'll be up at the first part of next month. But in terms of other exhibits, sometimes if we get something in that's I have enough items or have enough information, now I can put together an exhibit related to, tell a bigger story. Or sometimes we have a few that I need to change out. We have one that's called the ABCs of Saunders County.
Oh.
And that one is, it's just quite literally the alphabet. And so the next one is, I believe, the letter S. So things related to the letter S. So it might be a pair of shoes, or it might be a salad bowl, or, just things related to letter S, or Swedberg, since Swedberg starts with S.
Sure.
I can put something from Swedberg or says Swedberg in it. That type of thing, just to get some other things into on display for people to see.
Yeah.
So, gives you a reason to pull the salad bowl out. You know what I mean? Like if you've never had a salad bowl display, this is the chance for the salad bowl to shine.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
So that's
and there might
fun.
be some, like I was thinking of like all the things you probably have that you're like, when would I display this?
Exactly.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a way to get some other things, up into to viewing for people. So yeah, we just did one last year. We brought up some of our railroad stuff that are like timetables, some things related to the railroad. We also put up some kitchen related things. So if you don't know what a juicer is, you can come see what a juicer is.
Oh, okay.
We've actually have some bottles of I blanked on the name, like, let's say like vanilla extract.
Oh.
But it was not just vanilla extract, like banana extract. And there's
interesting.
like burnt sugar extract.
Interesting.
So we have stuff related to kitchens, and just some random things. I have somebody gave us an egg carton from Hinky Dinky.
Cool.
So,
the fact that they still had that, though.
Right. That didn't hit the trash years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a variety of different things that we have within our vast collections.
Sure.
Nice. Well, then it's nice that it keeps it fresh and it's always changing. So if you haven't been to the museum in a while,
Right.
come on down. It's free.
Yes.
And there's new things to see all the time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And what are the hours?
Right now, so we're back on our full schedule. So Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 4.
Oh, perfect.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. And if you want to join, you can go to the website or stop in or give a call to join.
Yes.
And are you still looking for like any help, like at the front desk or any volunteer help?
Yeah, we always need volunteers. And if you actually want to kind of dig into some of the records and that sort of thing, we've got some opportunities for people to do some work within our
so
research
more
areas,
than
than just greeting people and that sort of thing. So if you if you can read cursive, that might be a clarification for some people. Sorry,
right?
But we have some records that need to be transcribed, but sometimes it's really interesting just to dig into those. Just to, I can get lost in those.
I know that sounds fun. I was going to say, sign me up. I'll come read cursive for you.
There you go. And some of it's not just cursive; some of it is typed. So we're creating some indexes. To help access those records a little easier.
Gotcha.
Nice. So kind of whatever you're interested in, there's a spot for you to volunteer at our local museum.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it.
Nice.
Well, Erin, thank you so much for joining us today again on your media tour.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. This is my first podcast, so this is fun.
Oh, there you go.
A published author.
I know.
Nice. We're so glad to add that to your repertoire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll put that on my resume now. So.
That's right.
There you go. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. And
as always, keep it local, friends.
This has been a Chamber Chat
With Kate.
and Kat.
See you next time.
scoot on around today for an amazing drink, amazing people, and service that's amazingly fast.
Scooter's Coffee, family owned, locally loved.
Yay!